this is the key thing that I tell people who want to be like a full-time author. Because a lot of people have asked me that, like, oh, how do you, I wrote a book, but, and then I put it on Amazon, but I only made like $20. And I don't understand how you can be a full-time author only making $20 on a book. And I have to tell them, I'm like, it's because I didn't write a book like it was my fun little art piece that I then put out into the world. I wrote a book with the idea that I was going to be a business of selling books, right? And I tell people I'm a merchant of entertainment and I treat myself like that. So there's a lot I think that goes into being an author that is like a full-time author. And that includes things like knowing your craft, but knowing your audience, right? Being able to articulate your audience. If you open a donut shop, you have to know who you're selling to.
I always talk about having multiple hats that I have to put on. And sometimes those hats get into fights with one another because the writer side of me likes really silly, strange ideas and doesn't necessarily like to finish what it starts. It's like, ooh, shiny new idea. Let's go write this new series. And wait, you have 5 series open right now? Stop it. So I always think of it as multiple hats, and a lot of it is weighing those hats. I am fortunate in the sense that I own the business before this, right? So a lot of the teething aspects, learning how to work for yourself, project management, staff management, accounting, bookkeeping, I knew all of that.
Everybody's path to success, whatever success looks like for them, is different. Whether it's traditional authors, indie authors, like the thing that caused your definition of success is going to be different. So it's not a one size fits all. No matter what, the the motto of indie should be mileage may vary, right? Because it always does.
What is up, everybody? You're listening to episode 165 of SFF Addicts. I'm your host for today, Adrian M. Gibson, author of Mushroom Blues, and welcome to your weekly dive into the world of science fiction, fantasy, and writing craft. A quick note for all listeners, if you can check out the links in the description below to support SFF Addicts on Patreon for a bunch of cool extras like bonus episodes, author readings, and more. Also, don't forget to rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to the Fanfic YouTube channel where this and every other episode of the show is available in full video. And now welcoming to SFF Addicts, the participants of today's Indie Appreciation Month panel. Joining us to discuss self-publishing as a career, we have Tao Wong. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Nice to meet you all.
Good to have you here, bud. And we also have Shami Stovall.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, thanks for being here. And lastly, Michel. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, and it's great to meet everybody.
Yeah, buddy. Pleasure to have you here. Before we dig deeper into the episode, a quick word from our sponsor. Poe-Targe's job was to stand at attention and look good in a uniform, unless someone earned themselves an ass-kicking. He spent years climbing the ranks to be a master sergeant in the Sorrento Royal Senate Guard, and now he has the top-tier gig. He's guardian to High Senator Sarah Brand, one of the leaders of the planet Sorrento. Life is going pretty good for Poe, and he's looking forward to a future of settling down and retiring from service. But all that changes when High Senator Brand receives troubling news. Shattered is the story of doing the right thing and the consequences of those actions. Following Poe-Targe, Sarah Brand, and their friends as they struggle to keep their planet safe. Shattered, a Sanguine Stars novella, is a short, action-packed science fantasy read that features political intrigue, fun action, and a touch of humor, all while setting the stage for everything to come in this universe. Visit nicholaswfuller.com to get your digital copy today. And now, enjoy the rest of this episode of SFF Addicts. So before we get properly started, I'll give each of you a chance to introduce yourselves beyond just a name. You can tell them about your books, what have you. We'll go in reverse order. I'll start with you, Mike.
All right. So I write in the Dreams of Dust and Steel universe. It's my main series, and just in case people are able to see this, I actually didn't ask. People are seeing these videos, right?
Oh yeah, it's video.
Okay, then I'll show
I
off
mean,
the books I got on here.
part of our audience will hear it in audio, but go to Google and you'll see the covers there too.
Yeah, go visit Michael Michel. That's Michel. Dreams of Dust and Steel. And book 1, The Price of Power, released in April. And then book 2, A Graveyard for Heroes, just came out June 11th. 2 out of 5 books in that series. It's kind of like Game of Thrones with X-Men shoehorned in there. So if you like character-driven psychological magic systems, it may be for you.
Awesome. And when's book 3 coming out? Because I know you're doing like a rapid release. Or is that announced yet?
So, well, I actually have 2 other things coming out before that in August, September. 2 novellas, part of a prequel series that's going to be released alongside the main series. But book 3, Banners of Wrath, that is going to come out in January.
Nice. Look at you, busy man.
I'm really excited about that one.
And Shami?
Yeah, I'm Shami Stovall. I write science fiction and fantasy. I've written lots of books at this point, like 30-something odd novels. I have several completed series and several ongoing series. My latest one was Time Marked Warlock and the Chronos Chronicles, which is like Groundhog's Day meets the Dresden Files. The main character can rewind time, and he uses that to catch villains, stop monsters, solve crimes, all that fun stuff. I'm probably the best known for the Frith Chronicles, which is like a YA fantasy version inspired by Pokemon or Digimon or any sort of monster hunter, monster taming, anything. And I also have several books coming out this year because I can't stop myself from writing. I just really, really like writing, and I have a lot of stories to tell. And if I don't do that quickly, I'm going to die with a bunch of stories trapped in my head. So,
and we're all better for it. The more books, the better. And they're damn good too. So
you're too good to me.
And lastly, Tao.
Now I've got that sick Digimon theme song playing in my head.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a banger.
If it wasn't copyrighted, maybe I could, pop it into this while Shami's talking. All right, Tao, go for it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tao Wong. I write a bunch of books, mostly in the xianxia cultivation and LitRPG scenes. My latest novel is 1,000 Li, The Fourth Wall, which is the last book in a 12-book series for the 1,000 Li series. And that's goes wide on Amazon and Audible on July 1st. But oh no!
Oh no! The fourth wall
Everything
fell.
falls. Yes, the walls have fallen. Stay. I also have a couple of other books coming out this year as well. The third book in my Climbing the Rank series, which is a Malaysian lit RPG, and the fourth book in the Hidden Dishes series, which will be coming out sometime towards either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. So that's my cozy cooking fantasy.
Nice. Dude, that's speaking to my heart. Anytime there's cooking in books, I'm a happy boy.
That's based, the Hidden Dishes series is all about cooking. That book is basically my reason to go out to eat at nice restaurants and then go back and research new recipes.
Sorry to the chefs who have prepared these dishes at these restaurants that Tao is secretly stealing.
That may be the greatest reason for a tax write-off I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, 100%. And Canada's actually got some really good like laws around that kind of stuff. Like you can write off a lot of stuff for taxes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, each of you, ton of books already out and more coming, and it's really amazing to see your work ethic and all of that, which is perfect for our topic today. So I want to get each of your sort of ideas around what your self-pub trajectory has been up till now in terms of why you started in self-publishing and how you feel now after however long. So Shami, we'll go with you.
Okay. I actually started traditionally published, and I did everything that they told you were supposed to do. You're supposed to get an agent. You're supposed to query that agent, and then you have to submit to editors and all this other kind of stuff. And I guess long story short, it wasn't as much money as I thought it was going to be. It was very like, you got an advance, and I guess an advance is cool, but um I feel like a lot of the times a lot of those major publishers do stuff where they like throw spaghetti at a wall, and it very much felt like it. Like it felt like things that I wanted for a cover or the things that I wanted in editing didn't really happen. And I was a little bummed out. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it would be different. So after I was disheartened with that, I actually went into self-publishing, and I found that it made me a lot more money. Now, when my first thing I self-published didn't make too much money, but it did encourage me because I was like, wow, like I get to see all the sales in real time. I got to design my own cover. I hired the editors, and we didn't have an argument about what should happen in the book, which is what happened when I was with a publisher. And I was like, this is weird. Now, maybe I'm just difficult and crazy, like that might be the case, in which
I
case,
mean, I feel like most self-pub authors are a little bit difficult and crazy.
yeah.
Sorry to
Well, I'm at
all of
least
us and our friends.
I can at least analyze myself and be like, Shami, it might have been all you. You know what I'm saying? But I was at least happier with this route. I could see the results of my own marketing efforts. I was happy with my cover, like things like that. And it wasn't until I did my second series that I really had a lot of success. But when I had all of that success, I was like, my goodness, what was I ever doing before? Like I should have just done this earlier, type of thing. And having that kind of control really made the entire process better, like happier, quote unquote. And the money was also good, so this is great. So I really advocate self-publishing for a lot of reasons. Because if you're prickly or difficult, you know what I'm saying, you can just do all the things you want to do. Um, and I do think that there is a certain benefit to, if you want to be a really good self-published author, learning how to do marketing. And I don't think I could have learned to do marketing without seeing the back end results. Like if I like as a traditionally published author, they don't really show you that. Or if they do, they don't show it to you for like 3 to 6 months because they give you like quarterly reports. And I can't tell whether or not things are working by seeing things 3 to 6 months later. So it really helped me to market better being a self-published author. And yeah, so that was my trajectory. Is I had kind of a rocky start, and then it took off, and I can't believe I didn't start here sooner. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you're still prickly.
Yeah, and I'm still look at how difficult I am.
Oh, that's great though. That's great. And Tao, what about you in terms of like your self-pub career trajectory, your decision to get into it, and how it is looking back?
So I'm a weird trajectory, I guess, or entry into it in the sense that I'd known about, publishing and everything like that. And I probably would have gone. I had always intended to be an author at some point. As my wife said, she probably figured I'd be an author when I was in my mid 50s or something. But I just started writing for fun when I started reading some LitRPG stuff and ended up on Royal Road. And then I turned around and realized I had a couple of books written just because I was having so much fun. And I had a full-time job. I was running my own business at that point, and I didn't have time to do the grind of doing trad pub because, doing the traditional published way as a debut author is a grind. You have to send out your work. You have to clean up your work. You have to send it out to agents. You have to hope and pray someone will pick you up, and do all of that. And I'd known about self-pub kind of peripherally, but not really, done anything with it. But I figured I had these books. I didn't really think they would sell. And so I got myself a nice cover. I wrote up a nice blurb, did some basic editing, threw it up on Amazon. And then people started buying it. And I was like, okay. And in between, I kept on writing because I had a story I wanted to tell. So I was happily writing all of it. And then I threw up the second book and third, and people kept on paying me. So I kept on doing it. And I think for about 2 years, I was working kind of silly hours because I had my own business to run, had the self-pub business and the writing on top of all of that, which mostly at that point, I mostly did just writing. I was very lucky walking into LitRPG when it was super hot. So the amount of marketing I had to do was minimal in the sense of I didn't have to do ads. I didn't have to do, a lot of social media beyond Facebook at that point, which was where all the groups were. And about 2 years in, I realized that I was earning enough as a self-published author that it made sense for me to just go full time. The lease on my other business came up and they wanted to triple it. And I went, nope. I wasn't going to pay something like $30-something thousand a month.
That's insane.
It was bad.
Thank you, North American real estate market, for just going to shit.
Vancouver was terrible.
Oh, God.
Anyway, so I shut it down and I went full time. And then in between that, I, started bringing in co-authors to go and help write in my world, or working with co-authors like Angela to write silly little ideas that I had. And that's kind of where I am these days, just kind of plugging away at this. And I think, when is this releasing?
This will be towards the end of July.
End of July. Okay, so there's probably the announcement will probably be out by then. And yeah, I'm moving towards more of a hybrid kind of situation too.
Well, congratulations on that, my friend. Yeah.
Thanks.
If anyone wants to find out about that, go look up 1,000 Li by Tao Wong, and you'll see what's happening. All that fun stuff. And Michael, what about you in terms of your decision to get into self-pub and your trajectory?
So like both Shami and Tao have already spoken, so the writing bug has been in me for a very long time. And I am both weird and prickly. So there you have it. We've got this common denominator among us. I had a moment where it was early pandemic and I had been like dinking around with the price of power for years. And I had spent about 3 solid years in a professional level writing group with like World Fantasy Award winners, Nebula Award winners, this critique group for 3 years, just focusing on craft and short stories. I like to say sometimes I'm like a failed short story writer because I'd always want to like go way longer than the short story, but it was really helpful for craft and it was an incredible group. Love them. But I had this moment in my early 30s where I went, if I die early, who's going to finish my book for me? And I was like, oh shit, nobody. Like people will be sad for like 3 to 6 months, depending on if they're like, family or like friends, and then probably be less sad as time goes on, and nobody's going to finish my book for me. And so I was like, wow, I really need to write this now. I thought I would write it kind of like Tao said, like in my 50s when I'd retired from whatever job I should do. And so I set to work and started going and started trying to hit this point partway through where I was like, well, do I want to do trad or indie? And someone, I put about 2 weeks of hard work into the idea of traditional and got a partial query back pretty quick and then sent the thing for that. And they were like, I'm going to pass for now. And just the whole process felt like, ugh, kind of like just, it didn't feel right. And amid that happening, I sent an email to a very respected member of my old critique group. He had been a traditionally published author for his whole life and he liked my short stories. And he sent me a big email back. I fully expected him to be like, there's no legitimacy in indie. You should do traditional if you want to be taken seriously. And I got the opposite email. He was like, I've had 4 agents. 1 was terrible. 1 was okay. 1 stole from me and 1 was good. He said, he's like, traditional publishing is a dinosaur that's about breathed its last breath or something like that. Breathed its last. And if you have any kind of social media or like charisma experience, if you've got charisma and you have some social media marketing experience, he's like, I would just do it. Because if you sell 1,000 books, you'll have done better than 99% of people who have traditionally published. And so I was like, it feels better to do that. So kicked off, and I actually did a Kickstarter before I even launched my first book, and I hit it was like $12,000. And I was like, that's about what a traditional publisher would have paid me, even minus the expenses, for a first time
that's
debut
an
author.
advance right there.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So, am I totally closed off to traditional down the road? No. I'd love an audiobook deal from a publisher at some point. Producing my books at 10 to 20K would not be good. And I suspect that'll probably happen in the future at some point. The books are doing well, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man. And honestly, I can see a common thread through all of you. And I've gone through this experience myself where I started this podcast and I was basically of the mindset of I'm going to query agents. I'm going to go through that whole thing. And I started this podcast, and my first episode, I did like an intro episode, but my first like real episode was with Hugh Howey. And he basically, so from the get-go, he was like, yeah, trad is a dying dying part of the industry, and you should go self-pub. And so to hear those words from Hugh Howey was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? This like completely shattered my perception of everything. And now, almost 4 years later of doing this podcast, like I've seen so many different authors and how their careers have panned out. I've met so many amazing people from the trad side, from the hybrid and self-pub, who are doing really amazing things. And I think everyone will find their particular career path and the thing that works for them. But the one thing that I have seen as like the common thread is self-publishing, trad publishing. If you're a writer, you're treating it like a job. The people who are really serious are treating it like a job. And so I wanted to talk to each of you about that in terms of self-publishing being your job. What were some of the steps that you took to kind of prepare yourself for self-publishing as your primary career, or this thing that you're working towards as your primary career, especially with all the various roles that it entails. We've already mentioned multiple. It's like you are a writer, yes, but you're also a marketer, you're a designer, you're a project manager, you're a blah, blah, blah. There's so much involved in this. So, Tao, I'll toss it to you first to get your take on what it means to be a self-published author and having it as your job.
Yeah. It's interesting because you're talking about the roles, and it's very true. I always talk about having multiple hats that I have to put on. And sometimes those hats get into fights with one another because the writer side of me likes really silly, strange ideas and doesn't necessarily like to finish what it starts. It's like, ooh, shiny new idea. Let's go write this new series. And wait, you have 5 series open right now? Stop it.
The entrepreneur in you is just like, Tao, no, just stop.
The publisher side of me is just like, no, just stop. You can't do that. And then there's the personal side of me, the Tao side of me that goes, you just scheduled. I actually had this in a big update post where I scheduled basically 1.5 years worth of writing in 1 year. And it was just a case of like that part of eventually worn out and beat up both the publisher and the writer side and went, no, that will burn you out. You're going to have to kick something backwards. But so I always think of it as multiple hats, and a lot of it is weighing those hats. I am fortunate in the sense that I owned the business before this, right? So a lot of the teething aspects, learning how to work for yourself, project management, staff management, accounting, bookkeeping, I knew all of that from that old business. There are specific things in self-pub that you need to learn, like formatting. I have no clue how to format a book. All of that stuff was new, and the contracts and the laws and the industry knowledge was very new. But the work ethic and the basics of it, I came into this business knowing. So it wasn't really a transition for me. Once I stopped working in the other business, it was just, I'm going back to work because this is just, I'm working for myself still. So I just have to do these things. So for me, that was very easy. I will say, talking to newer authors, one of the things that I almost who are scaling upwards, one of the books I throw at them, it's called the E-Myth Revisited, and it's a good way of looking at the hats that you wear, really, and how to build out those hats so that at a certain point you can scale your business and go, right, all of this bundle of work, I can just hand it off to someone because I don't have to be the one learning how to format a book. I know how to do it roughly, but I don't have to be spending 2 hours formatting. I can just give it to someone and I can spend those 2 hours writing or marketing or something else. So it's something that I try to get people who are newer to it reading, because it also helps them build out those mental hats for themselves.
Yeah, and I've had many conversations with my wife about this because she got her MBA, so her master's in business and administration, and so she understands basically through the process of transitioning her family business from her father to her, how her dad is a micromanager and she is a delegator. And so she's trying to figure out how to transition this business into a business of delegation with trusted people. Obviously, it's like if you really like formatting, like I love formatting and design, so that's like part of my jam, you know, like I will like ride or die with that part of being able to adapt that into my creative process for a project.
Yep.
But in the case of Tao and you know, I mean, Shami, you're kind of shaking your head a little bit. There are people who don't like to do that. So you can figure out, okay, what are the hats that I personally love to wear and fit within my skill set? Which ones do I want to delegate? And so I think that is a lot to do with just business management, is figuring out like what are you capable of and what are you able to manage given your time versus who also has the skill set that is equal to or better than yours, who you can delegate that part of the project to. And that's a really, really I'll have to get the name of that book to add into the description of this episode as well, just for some resources for people to check out.
Oh, yeah.
Shami, I'll toss it to you in terms of your thoughts on self-publishing as a job and the ways in which you kind of manage your, you know, your business.
So actually, this is the key thing that I tell people who want to be like a full-time author, because a lot of people have asked me that, like, oh, how do you know, I wrote a book, but and then I put it on Amazon, but I only made like $20, and I don't understand how you can be a full-time author only making $20 on a book. And I have to tell them, I'm like, it's because I didn't write a book like it was my fun little art piece that I then put out into the world. I wrote a book with the idea that I was going to be a business of selling books, right? And I tell people I'm a merchant of entertainment, and I treat myself like that. So there's a lot, I think, that goes into being an author that is like a full-time author. And that includes things like knowing your craft, but knowing your audience, right? Being able to articulate your audience. If you open a donut shop, you have to know who you're selling to, right? You're selling to people who want donuts. You're not selling to people that just want to eat salads and other things like that, or who are trying to eat healthy. So you target your audience. And you don't just make one donut and put out that one donut and be like, I guess nobody ate this one donut, so I guess I suck as a donut salesman. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not how you run a donut business. You have multiple donuts. You go in and day out to your donut shop. You advertise your donuts. You advertise your donuts to people who want to eat donuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have fun new donuts every once in a while to bring in some new hype or, you know, jive, but also you keep your classic donuts, right? Like, because some people just want a glazed donut. And I feel like if people treat it like in their mind, like they're running a business, like they have a donut shop, they have a storefront or something like that, then they have a different mentality about going into it. But if you treat it like it's like a fun little art project that you did on the side, of course, you're going to be that statistic. I hear a lot of people sometimes when I tell them an author, they're like, oh, like, there's like thousands of books published on Amazon every day and they only make like 18 cents. Like, there's a ton of failed authors. And I'm like, they didn't treat it like a business, you know, like they didn't treat it with the seriousness that it deserves. And I think that it comes down to you have to be self-motivated to do a lot of things. I think Tao did have a really good base. He ran his own business ahead of time, and that really teaches you that you're not going to have a boss. Nobody is over my shoulder every day being like, did you get your work done? What are the hours you put in this week? I have to be my own boss. And you have to be, I guess, self-aware enough to know, can you handle that? Can you handle working day in and day out? Can you keep to your own schedule? Tao, I'm impressed that he knew he had scheduled himself a year and a half's worth of writing and was like, in 1 year, and was like, oh, I can't do that. That's too much. I need to pull back. I need to rearrange some stuff. Because I do see a lot of people who also go through burnout. Like they have the opposite problem where they're like, I'll just handle so many things. You don't even know, like I'll just work 20 hours a day. Who needs sleep? I'll sleep when I'm dead, like that kind of thing. And so it does take a balance. It does take some self-awareness. I feel like a lot of people who start writing don't really think about that. And that's fine when you start out, like Tao was talking about how he did it for fun and stuff like that. I'm talking about the people who honestly want to turn this into a career. And I think that's what this entire podcast is about, right?
And this won't be the same for everybody. In fact, one thing I've found is that like everybody's path to success, whatever success looks like for them, is different. Whether it's traditional authors, indie authors, like the thing that caused your definition of success is going to be different. So it's not a one size fits all. No matter what, the motto of indie should be mileage may vary, right? Because it always does. So I'll speak from the part-time author currently to, I would love to be full-time, and I definitely see that in my future. And it has been very challenging. So kind of so I recently relaunched my books, but I originally launched The Price of Power back in 2023, early 2023. And that, to me, the 2 years that followed, right up until the moment I relaunched this April 2nd, 2025, to me, that was like a proof of concept. It's like, okay, great reviews, managed to make some top 5, top 10 lists, right? Made some money, some successful Kickstarters. Okay, now I had to pivot and see how I could really take it to the next level. And that has been what this new launch is all about. And I'm starting to see how it could be a profession, but honestly, like it's what people, I'm echoing what everybody's already said. It's like, you have to treat it like a profession and a business. It's funny that both of you talked about pretty much delegating or seeing what parts of the business you can kind of hand off to focus on the ones that you're going to make the greatest impact in, such as writing books. Because I'm sitting down today and doing that list up. I'm like, I actually love sending my art briefs. I loved designing these, covers. I love putting in, even though I'm a terrible artist, sketching them out and stuff. And honestly, again, it's like, oh, I'm working right now as I do cover research. Like I put a ton of time, a weird amount of time, into just scrolling quickly through covers in fantasy to see what subconsciously the brain sees first, right? So I would do that and it'd be like, oh, shapes. Number one is shape and then contrast. Therefore, circle, white cover. Boom, right? But it's like doing those things. It can't just be like, oh, I just want to write a book and have the fun. Well, if that's what you want, then, the chances of you having, full-time writer success is probably low, to be honest. Yeah, it's a great thing. And I'm curious to see if I do become a full-time, author here in the next little while, if it's truly going to be a fit. Because before you're a full-time author, you are dealing with a lot of uncertainty. This industry changes. What was the magic bullet of yesterday is nothing tomorrow. And it pretty much does that every 3 to 6 months, right? And so even if you become successful, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so I'm curious to see if I'll actually want to keep my, I'm also a life coach. So I have my life coaching business prior to, which helped me to have some time to write, but I'll be interested to see what, if I like the feeling of being full-time and solely relying on my income as an author.
Yeah. And honestly, man, hey, I think a lot of people in the SFF world could probably use some life coaching. So you've got a good market base right there to tap into.
Whoa.
I've honestly thought about
I'm throwing
offering
shade
like
at
free
myself
group
just as much as
mindset
everyone else, but-
sessions and stuff like that. I feel like it's so weird. I mean, it's interesting. Actually, I mean, it's a good question, Adrian. Is like, I would almost push one back to you. Is what is it like to have a dual role in terms of, your author brand, also managing this one alongside it of being a prolific podcaster. Like, how do you dance between those two hats?
I mean, they require very different parts of my brain. I can kind of equate podcasting so there's like the actual preparation part of it, there's the recording of it. That stuff is more in line with sort of like the way I approach research, where I'm legitimately I'd started this podcast and I still do this podcast as a way to pick other authors' brains. So that taps into this sort of research hat that I already have a bit of a workflow for in regards to writing. And then the whole like editing part of it and the marketing part is just tapping into different skills that I have that also apply to writing. So it's like the editing of an episode is very similar to the sort of creative workflow that I get when I'm designing and doing formatting and things like that. Like it feels very mechanical, but in a way that's still very engaging to me. And then the marketing part is just it's like part and parcel with how I approach marketing a book. And in all honesty, like these things feel so conjoined at this point. Like me as an author is also me as a podcaster. And I think I've definitely benefited from being a podcaster first, despite the fact that there are some people out there who shit on content creators who then become authors. It's like I started being an author before I started content creation. So, you just didn't see all of
You don't need to justify yourself. I've always felt that was very weird too. People
Yeah.
who get angry about that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Right. You think people who talk about books all the time know something about books, right?
yeah, who like books. Yeah.
So I feel like they go hand in hand, which is really beneficial for me. And it's just part of my routine at this point. Like it feels like second nature to do this thing and divide up my time between the two. So, the only thing about podcasting is that it's not nearly as financially viable as writing. Like the actual like
that's a scary sentence.
I mean, like in my case, like I can look at the dollars and cents that I've earned from Mushroom Blues, and then look at the dollars and cents that I've earned from the podcast, and it's like, man, it's so much harder for people to justify paying for a podcast. It's just like it's this category of content that people are very, very quick to associate with free, just because of the nature of podcast apps and platforms and stuff like that, or going onto YouTube and just watching it there. Whereas books, there is much more of an association with like cost and product. So, writing is much more financially viable than podcasting. Please don't get into podcasting if you're looking for money, because it probably will never come, and it would take a long ass time for you to get anything worth justifying this is a part-time career or this is a full-time career. But on the topic of finances, this is the thing that honestly a lot of authors, I imagine, just fucking hate thinking about or talking about. But when it comes down to it, like a career in self-publishing, just being an author in general, like so much of it comes down to finances, the money that you earn, the money that you spend, how that investment, that return on investment, and that continuation of the cycle kind of plays out. So I'll ask each of you, like Shami, I'll toss it to you first. How do you manage the financial aspect of your writing career from, we've talked about the many hats and delegation and things like that. many of those have a cost. Cover art, design, editing, marketing often has a cost as well. So how do you kind of handle that side of things?
Well, before I jump into the question, I just want to interject teeny tiny that if people are listening to this and they want to be an author and have a career, there are some resources that I've found to be invaluable. And when Michael brought this up, I had thought of it and I was like, oh, I need to mention this. There is a website called Klytics, like analytics, but it's for Kindle analytics. And it's just a guy who literally compiles a bunch of information together and then you can buy his data analytics. I don't know if you guys have ever used this guy or if you like him, but I find the $20 or $40 or whatever it takes to buy the information to be super invaluable. He's the kind of guy who also puts all the covers in certain genres together. Like these are the top 100 books that are selling, and here's all the covers in one page for you to look at. So when Michael was like, I'm scrolling, look at all these covers, trying to see what they got in common, I remembered the Klytics. He just had them all there as a graphic, and you can totally see what's popular right now, right? Like what is selling right now. So, if somebody is listening to this being like, oh, I'm taking notes, I need to be a career author, I find that is actually a resource that's totally worth the money.
Right on. I'll throw
Yeah.
that in the description as well, along with the book that Tao mentioned earlier.
Okay. Yeah. It's Klytics like this. Yeah.
Perfect.
So in terms of finances, I do think a lot of people are daunted by being an author in the very beginning because of the opening costs. Like they don't want to hear that a book cover can cost. I mean, really, a book cover can cost anything from $20 up to $20,000, depending on what you want to spend. You don't have to have like a super great named artist for your first book, but I would recommend that you at least, like, if you only have like $500 to spend on your first book, I would recommend at least 250 go toward the cover, because really in a book game, much like with a donut shop, right? You have to entice somebody to come and look at your inventory.
They have to be pretty donuts.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the shop sign or the name. You know what I'm saying?
I got a beautiful storefront, but really ugly donuts. So.
Well, that might be better than the other way around. In all seriousness, if you've got an ugly storefront, you're probably losing a lot of customers right at the door.
Dumpster donuts is what Michael threw in the comments. Yeah, that's a great. I hope someone out there, start up dumpster donuts.
I think I saw a shop once called "I'm a Donut Hole." And I thought that was a pretty funny name. It made me look at the shop a second time. But that's the point, is that, again, if you're treating this like a business, you have to entice the person every step of the way. And the first thing they will see is the cover. And so what you really, really don't want is a bad cover. You can have an okay cover, you know what I'm saying? And a great cover is obviously better because you want to entice them faster. But if you have a bad cover, if you have a cover that says, I made this myself in MS Paint, a lot of people aren't going to take you seriously and they're going to just move on immediately, right? So I do think that the cover is important. I do think that you should have at least a little bit of a budget. The good news is that it doesn't have to break the bank. A lot of people assume that the cover has to break the bank. It does not. There are lots of great resources for that. There are lots of writers groups out there that are very helpful. Or really, I know I said I was prickly or weird, but I actually find that most authors are extremely helpful. If somebody wrote me and was like, where can I go to get a book cover? I have several links. I have several artists. I know people who, they want more clients, right? I would send you their way. Or I would tell you, here are some budget options. Here are some people who are fancy. You know what I'm saying? If you have the fancy money and you want to do that. And most authors who I've ever reached out to are like that. I feel like Tao, maybe I don't know Tao well enough, but if somebody reached out to you, Tao, I feel like you would probably answer them. No?
Yeah, I've literally given away everyone from my editors to cover artists. I don't write fast enough to go and keep my editors, cover artists, whatever, in business. Yeah. And if they don't have business, then they'll go away. I don't want that. So, I'm happy to farm them out.
Yeah, and I have seen people's cover art, like even as an author myself, and been like, oh, and then I messaged them and I'm like, dude, who did that cover for you? I need to keep them in mind for, some sort of future book release, because that was fancy stuff. So in the very beginning, I would definitely recommend that you save, but it doesn't need to be like a down payment on a house. If you save a couple $100, you can get a nice cover. You can ask other authors. You can go to author groups. There are lots of places where they can direct you where to go so that you can spend your money efficiently. You can learn to format yourself so you can save yourself the time. Like Tao said, you can learn to do it, but you can also spend 40, 50 bucks to get somebody to format your book for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do that. Really, you should have a checklist. You should have the kind of budget you want. I mean, this comes with running a business, right? Is set yourself a budget, stick to the budget, get yourself done. I feel like if you had to do things in priority order, you should have at least a good book cover. Your blurb on Amazon or wherever you're going to sell should be very well edited, right? Do not have your blurb riddled with typos and awkward sentences, because this is the next step to entice somebody into your book, right? Sometimes editing can cost lots of money, but it doesn't need to cost lots of money. You can hire just proofreaders as opposed to an editor, for example. There's also lots and lots of things lately I've seen people talking about. They're like Grammarly, like programmers that'll help you
Pro
write.
Writing Aid is another one that a lot of people
Pro
use.
Writing Aid, things that'll catch typos for you, and those are really helpful and a little more cost effective than hiring an entire editor to do something, right? It's just that it's that steps thing. Make sure that somebody is enticed. And if you make promises, keep your promises. Don't promise things that you don't have, right? Don't write in your blurb that there are 30 assassins and then your book has no assassins, because that's the way you get 1-star reviews super fast, right? That's what I always tell people. If you're a donut shop, don't promise them Philly cheesesteaks, because you're a donut shop, right? If they walk in and they're, where's my Philly cheesesteak? They're going to walk out angry. So entice your customer, be the good merchant of entertainment that you are, keep your promises that are in the blurb, and then deliver with your awesome story. I know it's hard to be confident as an artist sometimes. Like everybody has that I'm an imposter syndrome, or what if my book's not really good? Like there's always that like voice. But when you're selling a product, you have to be proud of your product, right? Like that's the key to being a successful merchant. So I feel like the finances wise, if you've got $500, you could probably get your first book out there just fine. You should stick to a budget. You shouldn't go crazy balls with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, later in your author career, if you've already got a successful series or two and you're doing really well and you want to splurge on a crazy super named artist and stuff like that, go ahead.
Chris McGrath.
yeah. I loved working with Chris in all seriousness, but he's not a dude I would have worked with on my first book. You know what I'm saying? Because he's just too expensive for that. And that's the kind of stuff that you should do, right? You should work smart, I guess. Not hard, but smart. You should just take the money you need. And like I said, you can ask any author, any successful author that's going out there, and I feel like most of them are going to answer you. Now, some of them won't, right? Like Matt Dinneman is a very busy guy. If you message Matt, he might be like, I don't have time for this, or maybe he won't message you back. But if you mentioned or go to a lot of authors, they'll point you in the right direction. You get you to spend your money appropriately. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is really smart to think about that. Like your first book does not need to break your bank, because I know I've heard too many stories of authors who go into it and basically say like, oh, I'm, on book number 5 and I still haven't out-earned book number 1, right? And that's because they went too far with book number 1 spending, like don't feel the need to have an audiobook, because an audiobook is not necessary with book 1 if you are able to do it. Like in my case, I basically took all my earnings from Mushroom Blues up until that point and was able to fully cover the costs of my audiobook recording and production. And that's a very particular case, but you don't need to think like, especially if you're writing like epic fantasy or something like that. I'm looking at Mike, he's saying like, 10 to 20K for an audiobook of an epic fantasy book, because it is so long.
Mm-hmm.
And audiobook narrators are paid per finished hour. So you need to think about like priorities. What is your priority when it comes to the first product that you're going to put out? And like Shami was saying, you put more books out there, your return on investment from book 1 goes to book 2. And as you start to accrue readers, as you start to earn more, then you can start to think about, okay, maybe I'm going to get a better artist, not necessarily a better artist, but a more expensive artist. Maybe I'm going to invest in an audiobook for, we could even be going back and investing in an audiobook for book one, So there are many ways that you can do that. But I think, yeah, like what you're saying, being really smart about how you're prioritizing different, financial aspects of your project and treating
Yeah.
it like a smart investment, essentially.
For a lot of my series, I usually go. So I guess when I first started out, this is what I used to do. If I went to book 3 and I saw that the sales steadily increased with every new release of the book, and then I made enough money, that's when I started the audiobooks, right? Because by then, by book 3, I can tell whether or not my audience is actually enjoying this, whether it's going to be really viable, like that kind of thing. And if I'd gotten to book 3 and I'd saw like a decrease or a wane of interest or things like that, I'd be like, okay, clearly I donked up on this. It doesn't necessarily need an audiobook, and I'll just try again on the next one. I guess that's an aspect that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, the getting back up on the horse. I know a lot of authors who have put out a book and it has not done well. And that's super disheartening. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially most artists are like this. You put your heart and soul into this. It takes months sometimes to write a book, maybe even years. And if it doesn't do well, or if it gets poor reviews or something, you feel like really bad because you're like, man, I invested all that time into it. But a key of running a business is that you have to have like that tenacity, that wherewithal, the willpower, whatever word you want to use for it, to stick it through. I mean, there's going to be months when people don't want donuts, right? People aren't like
They're trying to slim
donut
down for
crazy
summer.
in summer. So,
is there like a donut book you're writing that's coming out?
Yeah, I feel like you're really obsessed with donuts today.
Actually, I think everybody, or no, wait, maybe Adrian and Tao are just Canadians. Michael, are you Canadian?
No, he's American.
Okay, well, so the thing I say that I make a joke of is that in America, like the American way is to start a business. And a lot of people really like, it might be in Canada too, but since I don't live in Canada, I don't know about that.
We've adopted some American work mindsets.
Well, so in the United States, it's really praised. A lot of people are like, whoa, that's so great of you. It's so great you open your own restaurant or your own store or your own craft shop or whatever you're doing. But a lot of the times in the United States, if you tell them that you want to be an author, there's sometimes this like, oh, that's really sad for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a terrible career choice. I don't understand why you would ever do that. And that's why I make this donut shop analogy a lot, because I'm like, look, the good American in me wants to analogize this with the store, because people really appreciate when you open a business, open a store, open a storefront, and they don't seem to appreciate if you're like, well, I want to make a business out of being an author. I don't know why. I don't know where that mentality comes from. But
maybe it's something to do with like the brick and mortar feels more tangible.
Yeah, maybe. I used to be an attorney, and a lot of people would be like, oh my God, Shami, why are you throwing away an attorney career to be an author? What's wrong with you? Being an author, you're only going to make like $5, like that kind of thing. And I'm like, man, you guys, you need to calm down. Any business is the business that you can grow as long as you're passionate about it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Fuck the naysayers.
Oh, you have to be prepared for it.
Statistically speaking.
Yeah,
statistically speaking, they're mostly right. They just should think more of you, knowing you already became a lawyer. That takes so much hard work and dedication. It's like, why wouldn't they then translate that to you being a really intelligent human who could do that?
Well, being an attorney sucks. And I didn't know that necessarily when I was doing my studying in law school and stuff like that. But actually being an attorney is just soul sucking. It's not fun at all.
Sorry to all the attorneys out there. I hope we're providing you with entertainment, the merchants that we are.
Well, they would agree. I've not met another
They're working 16 hours.
Tell us in the comments below if you're an attorney and you're not having any fun. All right. Well, Tao, I want to get your take on finances. Talk to me about how you approach the sort of cost side of things.
Generally, I mean, most of my books have a budget that I know is roughly what it's going to cost, right? You do this long enough, you have a rough idea of how much everything it costs. Your covers, you're gonna, as when you come in and do a project, you know what your covers are going to cost. Whether it's 500 or 1,500, if you're going up to epic fantasy kind of levels, where you really are competing against really big name people, and in my case, trying to get big sales from it. But part of it for me as well is going backwards and looking at my projects early on, and saying, hey, is this project going to sell? Because I have. So that's, again, writer side, publisher side. The writer side writes for fun. Sometimes it gets beaten up by the publisher side to stop writing as many fun projects and write something that will actually sell, as Shami says. But I do a lot of silly, and I have the luxury of doing it. But I do a lot of side projects that don't really do huge money. Right. I write a lot of shorts, which don't sell in LitRPG. I write my cozy cooking fantasy does okay, but it's never going to be a big seller because it's a novella. It's not a full on book series. So going in and looking at it, I also know, well, this is not going to make me a lot of money. Don't put a lot of money into it, as Shami says. So for the novella, I keep my covers very cheap, relatively speaking. I'm not spending $1,500 or $5,000 in covers. I sold my audiobook rights to Dreamscape because I didn't want to take on the risk of doing it, and that's a lot of risk mitigation aspects in here. Formatting was done, in-house. I did one run through with a proof with an editor, there's no, and then basically Grammarly, pro writing it in my case, just to check for spelling mistakes. And that's it, and that's it. That was all that we was doing for it, because we knew we weren't going to make a lot of money on it. So we do things like that. But we are also looking at other aspects of building long-term finance. And this is something that is worth considering, is when you're writing a series, book 2 always helps with book 1. Book 3 generally helps with book 1 and 2 if you've got a good series. If you've written something crap or it just hasn't hit right, and it happens. I have had series that do not, I've been full-time since 2019, and I have a lot of books that have not hit it right. It happens, But as it's my version of a durian donut, if you will.
A durian donut? That's a stinky donut.
That's a good analogy, Tao.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. All right, we're all in on donuts now, but
some people love it. Some people love it.
Yeah.
The people who love it, love it.
Don't take it on public transit. That's the only thing. Yeah. But
the vast majority of people, not so much.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste.
You do enough, right? You produce as many books as you are. The nice thing about books, especially if you're not selling or licensing your work out, they stay forever, and that builds up your backlist, which becomes part of your income stream. And that's the, Michael was talking about the worry about how things go up and down. And, I've seen that, I closed off a big series with the System Apocalypse. Sales for that series has kind of trended down. So income has trended down. 1,000 Lee is closing up. I'm sure, after 1,000 Lee, I'll see some trend down for it because, I'm not releasing any more books in that. Maybe I'll have another big hit. But all of these books still sell if you do your marketing right. And that builds up what I call a base. That base can shrink over time, but it does have a base level of income. And one of the side aspects of that is then you can build your finances for your company based off that, right? If I know my base income is $3,000 a month, I'm not hiring someone full time who's going to be $3,000 because I still have to finance things for, audiobooks, covers, and in between release dates, advertising and everything like that. Something else to add as well is to think about cash flow projections as well. And that's a lot of our you put your book up, you don't get paid for 2 months or sometimes up to 3 months before, the money actually hits your account. If you start advertising, that advertising money comes out immediately out of your credit card. The credit card might, if you're lucky, give you 45 days. So you're basically at least 15 to 20 days, if not 45 days out of pocket if you're doing things like that. And then your covers come in like 3 to 6 months beforehand. Your editing comes in. So a lot of times you have to figure out where all your money is going, because you can be sometimes writing a book 2 or book 3 and paying for book 2 and book 3 cover costs before you're even seeing your money, which is coming. It's just taking its time to arrive. So sometimes that, putting all of that into a spreadsheet or an Excel document and going, oh yeah, I'm going to need a little bit of money here. Maybe, don't go on that vacation or, buy that car or whatever before it actually hits the bank account.
Yeah, it is really good to think about those things, because these are terms that a lot of people might bounce off of and be really kind of like, it's like cost projections, risk analysis. These are things that are really important when you're thinking about a business and how a business functions. The fact that you have to do some short term, but also a lot of long term thinking, especially if you're planning on investing in a project down the line, using the money that you earn from the current project, and the fact that, like you said, how there's so many different sort of like checkpoints that come along the way, where it's like, okay, the cover is going to be this much time before that book comes out. The editing is going to happen at this point. How much am I going to invest in marketing? And that's where the risk analysis comes into play, where it's like, how much does this, how much does this project justify financially? If it's a side novella that's sort of like supplementary to a main series, you don't have to invest as much in terms of cover art, in terms of all that kind of stuff. Editing is also another thing. Like, Shami, you came from TradPub, where it's like they have a copy editor, they have a proofreader, they have a line editor, they have someone who's going
They
to
also have a continuity editor, which I didn't
like
realize.
developmental editors, like all these different things. So there are multiple sort of brackets of editing in the trad world, but in self-publishing, you really have to be particular about like, okay, can I justify all these different types of editing? Mostly you have to pick one just to make it financially viable. So there are so many different factors that come into it.
I do want to actually quickly interject one thing about editing, and in slight contrast to Shami, where when you're paying for editing, one thing to think about is if you get a good editor, you're not just paying for that book, but as an improvement to your craft. As in, if you've got a good editor, they will tell you all the things that you've done wrong, and that will improve your donuts for the next batch, right? So it's not just there. Shami obviously is an amazing writer, and she went through TradPub, and so she got some of that training already beforehand. I didn't. So when I pay for my editors, I learned so goddamn much that has been useful for me, 9 years down the road or whatever. So it's, yes, sometimes the early cost of editing is incredibly expensive, and it's really hard to find a good editor too, which is tricky. But a good editor can really help improve your donuts so that they sell better.
Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, like too much baking soda, reduce that a little bit. I think it's all really super, super helpful though. Shami, I want to get Michael's take first, because he hasn't gone for a while, to talk about your perspectives on like the financial side of things, Mike.
So let me just track back to what something Tao was saying, because I'm gonna lay this out. I paid for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 covers in the last 10 months. 5 typography, the typography that Rachel St. Clair did, the typography, the design. 5 of those. Editors, 2 or 3. Okay. Then I started ads in March. All of this before I relaunched book 1. So like, say one thing for me, I've got some confidence in the series, because that like it devoured my money right? And then I'm like, great. April came around. I'm like, money's coming in. I'll see the profits in 3 months, right? It's like, so it can be really stressful. So what I would say to people is your budget depends on your goal / strategy. Okay. So the first time I did things, I'll give you the things that I did that maybe are things to consider. So I would just kind of do things. I would give it about a month or two in my mind. And I'd be like, all right, Kickstarter sounds great. I'll run a Kickstarter. Granted, the Kickstarter went well. However, it wasn't actually done out of thought for a strategy. Okay. Because after I did that Kickstarter and my book was out for a year and a half, I realized, oh, my book is kind of dead to the algorithm. Even if I released a book too, I'll get a little bump, but I won't have like consistent trajectory to keep going up. Okay. So I pivoted and adopted a new strategy, which is to have a semi-staggered, semi-rapid release with multiple content. That took a substantial budget up front and a lot of shitting my pants about how I don't have any money for 10 months. Okay. Because it was all going to, I was telling my wife, I was like, I can't buy shirts. I can't buy underwear. I'm not spending any money.
Holes
it
in
doesn't go back into these books.
God damn.
I did. I got holes in everything, man. That sounds weird. But not my donuts. No,
I mean,
couldn't resist. Dang it.
Yeah, but also they're like holding a bank account. You can apply it across the board without sounding weird.
Oh, it's Swiss cheese in there right now. I got the Swiss bank account, not the kind that the rich people got. So it really depends on. If you're a new author, and I suspect that mostly new authors are gonna, like a large portion of people listening to this are new authors. Identify what strategy you want. Do you want to run Kickstarters and then get bumps from each subsequent sale and have less stress around producing books quickly? Are you someone who's going to produce books quickly and rapid release and then just keep that rolling and have your fan base understand that? Are you going to post on Royal Road? So get an idea of what your strategy is going to be and then ask yourself what the purpose of that strategy is. Don't just buy shit that you heard about because it sounds like the quick road to success. Because there are an endless amount of those in the self-publishing community. It's like, oh, this thing worked really great. Oh, this artist, all their covers sell all the time, right? And then if you're anything like me, you maybe just sometimes will chase that tool, right? You'll chase down Publisher Rocket. You'll chase, oh, I got to do ads in this specific way. Oh, I've got to have Felix Ortiz or Christopher Cant, right? Think about fit, think about your strategy, think about the purpose behind what you're doing, and then be 10 times more patient than you think you can be. Because running any business, but especially this one, being an author requires patience, so much patience. You know, you'll think you're going to do something in 6 months. It's going to take a year and a half. You think you're going to, have this really quick road to success. It's not going to work out, but something else does. And you need to have the patience to pivot, reassess, and attune yourself to this new path. So thinking of those things, really important. I would honestly give this advice. After you release a book, give it 1 year. And if you don't have a profit, well, if you're not earning a profit, you're running a business that's failing. Really important to reassess. It's okay to stop that series and do a new one or rekindle an old one if you can that you didn't ever finish. But give it a year. If you're not profiting, reassess your goals. Do I want to just keep doing this because it's enjoyable to me and I have fun writing and being a part of the author community? Or, oh, I really want to make money at this. Do something different. Or, just keep running that. Just know you're going to operate at a loss for the rest of your author career. Because honestly, after a year, you'll probably know. Typically, there's going to be somewhat of a cliff. Okay. Hopefully all that was helpful. I don't know.
No, definitely. And I think it is really important to think about purpose. It's like, what is your purpose in doing this? Or do you want it to be a career, or do you want it to be a hobby? Do you want it to be full-time? Do you want it to just be something that you do on the side? But I think the patience thing is also really key because you only have one shot to debut. So this is specifically going out to debut authors. So if you rush it it's not going to benefit you in any way at all. It's like you can take the time to properly set yourself up to release the book in a financially viable way that's not going to destroy you. You can do it in such a way where the quality is where you want it to be, where you think the market is expecting a book to be. So don't rush and get a shitty cover. Don't rush and get a bad editor or not an editor at all. Don't rush your launch because there are so many things to think about. And I think the debut is a really good point to learn a lot of the hard lessons. That's like something I specifically went through. It was like looking back, I'm like, oh shit, there's so many things that I screwed up. But every single thing I screwed up, I can look at my next release and think, how can I not do that again? You know, I'm my best mirror. I'm the best. You know, my experiences are the best lessons that I can apply to future projects and future ideas. So be patient. Don't rush yourself because you know the market is going to consume you if you think that you have to constantly go. And we've talked about burnout as well. And like, you know, I think we were talking about it before we started recording, but maybe we'll talk about burnout a little bit later. But I wanted to do a rapid fire and get each of your takes. Just tell me straight up. I want to know what have been the most lucrative formats for you, whether it's like ebook, paperback, audiobook, you know, what have you. And then what have been the most lucrative platforms? You know, there's Amazon KDP, there's Audible, there's Kindle Unlimited, or direct to customer, which is the thing I've seen a lot of self-pub authors doing these days. So Shami, what have been the most lucrative formats and the most lucrative platforms for you? Just a quick answer.
Audiobooks have definitely made me more money than I thought that they would ever make. I think that Kindle Unlimited made me more money than I ever thought that they would make, but I do write longer books. I do think Kindle Unlimited benefits longer book people more. And I do think that Kickstarter has been more successful than I also thought it would be. And I feel like those are my top 3.
Fantastic. And Tao?
I think number one would still be the ebook format. Kindle Unlimited is probably equal in total revenue for me as well to actual ebook sales. But I write a mixture of shorts, novellas, novels, and so, you know, and short books. So any of those that are short, I just don't put in KU. So I think per series that is in KU, the longer works, KU out earns by far. And that's probably like 60% of my income in ebooks, sales and KU put together. So audio definitely is a huge income earner for me. But I would caution that is a very LitRPG specific thing potentially. I do know certain genres do not do as well. So double check, you know, in your genre. And then Amazon by far is, you know, is earning me the most money. But, you know, I like having all the other options, but Amazon is still the big juggernaut.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what about you?
Well, first I want to say that I think that selling direct to consumers and investing time and energy into social media platforms is probably the best like bang for buck, and I think going to be more and more of a thing in the future. I think it's going to trend that way. It's just a pure, random conjecture for the moment here. And then for me, it depends. So making $12,000 in a month is great on Kickstarter. That's fantastic. But then you're also putting in a ton of energy to package everything, figure it all out, chase down, organize. So it's a lot more work, right? Whereas getting 20,000 page reads while you're asleep isn't nearly, not even close to the money you make in a day on Kickstarter. However, you were sleeping. So, you know, what's bad about that? Absolutely nothing. So I'm exclusive with KDP, but obviously the Kickstarters were great income sources. On KDP, ebooks, Kindle Unlimited, that's typically how it goes for me, at least. But they're pretty close, honestly. The joy of getting a lot of page reads far exceeds profit for me. Just knowing people, 20 people read my book today. This is fantastic. It's the coolest thing ever.
I agree. And for me too, ebooks and Kindle Unlimited have probably been the most profitable and high ranking. Obviously, like my audiobook came out 6 months after the book was released, so there is that caveat to take into account. But I do think it is like even though the audiobook does sell well, it definitely has that time detractor for comparing it to something like KDP and specifically ebooks and Kindle Unlimited. Something I want to get into now is career longevity. We've talked about this quite a bit in terms of, if you want to do this long term, what are some things that you can keep in mind to make this career feel worthwhile, but also sustainable in the long term? Because there are a lot of ways that you can kind of fuck yourself over and burnout being one of them. There are a lot of ways where you can kind of kick yourself in your own ass with this. So Tao, how do you kind of look at career longevity and ways in which you can make this more sustainable, more livable?
A few things for me is I don't rely on any single retailer, and part of it is I purposely write shorter works so that I don't have to be on Amazon exclusively. So things like Patreon, and so I look at my income streams and see where I can optimize to some extent. And so I have subscription income from Patreon and from my website, Shopify, that I run through. I have direct sales through that. I have Kickstarters that happen that generate income for me. I have books on other retailers. I have audiobook contracts with audiobook producers, even though I can make those myself, because they have given me very decent upfront advances. And so I can take that money and sock it away and go, okay, I don't have to worry about that. And when I earn myself out, if Amazon shuts down my account for some weird reason, they're not shutting down Tantor or they're not shutting down Podium kind of thing. So I don't have to worry about things like that. So that's the financial side of it, right? I spread out my income as much as possible to the point where I can go, if Amazon and Audible shut down my accounts tomorrow, I don't care. I mean, I care, but it won't, I can keep, sustaining my lifestyle kind of thing. And that's taken a lot of years. I basically started from 2017 when I started, and I purposely built it that way in many ways. It means that I've given up money by not being in KU and not writing certain longer books. But it, to me, means that I have longevity. I have every format possible: paperback, hardcovers, audiobooks when it makes sense, obviously. Sometimes I purposely know I will lose money on an audiobook in the short term, but then I look at it and 2 to 4 year kind of ROI kind of time frame and go, right, I will earn my money back in 3 years' time. That's fine. I can afford it. And it's a short story. It's $350. Whatever. I can afford to pay $350 for an audiobook short, even though it might take me 5 years to go and earn the money back. But it means that I have a continual little drip of income from that. So that's the finance side. The burnout side is partly charting out. I keep track of how many words I write every week, every year, every day. And then I can look at how much I write generally every year. So I have a rough idea of how much I'm going to write in a year without pushing myself too much. And so if I know if I'm charted how many books I'm planning to write that year and release, and I realize I've got more books than I should, I need to pull back because there's no way I'm going to do it. So that's the other side of it. It's a lot of analytical side. And to keep it fun, I let the writer side beat up the publisher sometimes and write silly things.
Yeah, it can't just go one way. It has to go both ways.
Yeah, it's I have books, I have series that I will write that I know will make money. It hits the tropes, it does all of the things. It will make me money. It might not make me a lot of money. Like it might not be a huge, dungeon crawler Carl success, but it will make me money, right? So that's fine. And then I will write the other weird ass, dating lit RPG, which I know probably will never make me money, but it feeds the part of me that is the writer.
Because you do have to have that creative slash business balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the diversifying your income streams is also very important as well, just to be able to sustain yourself in the long run. I've talked about this with my sister-in-law because she's a content creator, but she does a lot of stuff on Instagram, and I've talked to her about the fact that, like, what if I know Instagram would probably not get banned in the United States, but like TikTok, for instance, people who are doing a ton of their business through TikTok. I have author friends who sell a lot of books through their TikTok shop. And when that stuff was happening in the United States and TikTok there was talk of TikTok being banned, and then it did get banned. And I don't think it was for a very long time, but that still shows the vulnerability of relying too heavily on a single platform for your income stream. There's just so many things that can happen that are beyond our control. Who knows what happens? Like, something happens to Jeff Bezos and Amazon and things go to shit. What are self-published authors going to do? So it is good to have that in mind when you're thinking about the long-term sustainability of your career. Shami, I'll toss it over to you.
I agree with Tao about diversifying your income streams. I think that's very, very helpful. I have seen authors who have their account shut down for like no reason whatsoever. Now, a lot of the times they do end up getting it back, but obviously it's very scary if you don't ever get it back, type of thing. I also think that it is with any career, like if you're making with your donuts, right? You need to keep producing donuts. You need to be engaged with your reader base. Now, there are lots of ways to do that. Keeping a newsletter. Amazon allows you to look at your followers now and see like your follower count and recommend things to your followers. That's why I said that you always need to keep your glazed donut, your classics, right? Even if you're coming out with fancy other new donuts, because there will be a certain grouping of your readers that want to read why they got attached to you in the first place, right? So if you start off writing in a certain genre, or if you're mostly a LitRPG author, it's good to put out a lot of LitRPG, right? Now, occasionally you might want to do other things, but just keep it in mind that you do have you start to build a dedicated base, right? And you always want to keep your dedicated base happy with what you're producing. I have also found that remonetizing things, like I said, I thought Kickstarter was really great for things like special editions of books that have already been successful. I've also started making a comic book for my Frith Chronicles series. So I've invested money into that, but that's like a new, different way to remonetize something I've already written.
How are you distributing that comic?
Well, so right now, where I'm basically producing the comic, we already have the chapter 1 comic, and we're now on to chapter 2. And my goal is to sell to a distributor. Fingers crossed that all works out. But that's exactly what I'm doing right now, is to have somebody else take the distribution rights. There we go. And then they're going to distribute it for me. But I've already made a product that is known to sell and has a fan base and all this other kind of stuff. So remonetizing things that are already really successful is a way to go. I know that, like in Dungeon Crawler Carl's aspect, now not everybody is going to be Dungeon Crawler Carl successful, but this man not only has a Kickstarter special edition, but he has his new hardcovers from the publisher. He also has the audiobook, which everybody loves, but he's also coming out with like a theatrical audiobook, and
I think I saw something about him doing like an animated version of Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Well,
as well.
he has a webtoon coming out, so he's also doing a comic. So things like that. As soon as you have something that is a really good story and has a really good loyal fan base, branching out into all these other categories to also get that kind of income, I think is a really good idea. Like this, that's what I would definitely suggest if you want like a long term, is to keep. If you have a banger, you know what I'm saying? You keep doing something with it. Maybe you do put out short stories in the universe. Maybe you make a sequel series. Maybe you do comics, a theatrical version of the audiobook, special editions, things like that can really help between new projects, because you never know, you might put out a new project and it doesn't do well, but you might put out another new project and it's also a banger. So, now we have a different series we can also remonetize. But I would definitely, Tao was right. Diversifying your income is great, but I would also consider remonetizing or making new editions of things that are already proven to be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dream is an anime of Mushroom Blues.
There you go. Yeah, an anime would be sick, man.
An anime would be amazing, but obviously that one's a bit more difficult. I think it is remonetizing in certain methodologies works really well. When it comes to TV and film adaptations, that's its own. It's its own beast, basically. And anime and like animation, I think, kind of falls within the realm of television as well. But very, very good point. I think, like I've seen a lot of self-pub authors make use of doing special editions to kind of, tide their fans over, but maintain interest over a longer period of time in those sort of like waning periods is really, really helpful. And Mike, what about your thoughts on sustainability? Also, like things like maintaining family life and stuff like that. And you and I have talked about that, and just like being a self-published author, and especially you're like, well, how many fucking covers have I commissioned? How many editors have I paid? All this kind of stuff. And the inevitable reality of like, well, I have to talk to my wife about some stuff and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, there was a story I wanted to share. Someone was saying something about family. Oh, I think it was Shami. And I had an uncle recently who like hit me up and was like, yo, you're pretty much the gist was like, you got to quit this author stuff and get a real job, and your wife's going to leave you. And I'm like, she is my biggest proponent. She's the biggest pusher of the book in the series. So, but anyways,
screw that uncle, whatever.
So yeah, well, I mean, it's all right. I was just literally shelling out money at the time. So
right.
He's not wrong, but he's not right. Got to believe in the strategy.
Yeah, man.
So you want to create super fans. Okay. The great thing about super fans is they will follow you, not anywhere necessarily, because some people prefer Facebook and Instagram and they won't go to Discord. Some people, will only do Discord and TikTok, but won't go to these other places. But the more options you have for places that super fans might be, the better, right? Multi-channel, multi-stream of income. That's great. And this industry changes a lot, changes fast. Amazon might rise and fall. I doubt they'll fall. They're probably too big to fail at this point, but they might change their, their model such that we don't like it anymore, right? And through all that, through the ever-changing landscape, there's three things that are really important: writing a good book, creating fans, and networking. No, people don't talk a lot about the networking piece, but networking has never not been a great idea for any business. And it's the same with being an author. Okay. So don't get out there and be super weird with people if you're a new author, but definitely look at where you're at, who's like in the sphere above you. Create a little bit of a ladder for yourself, and just network with people, and just be an authentic, good person who loves to talk about books and writing and engage with other authors. Promote their work, buy their work, go to conventions. Just doing that is really huge. And then the same with fans. If you have fans, don't just be like, yeah, cool. If they reach out to you, oh my gosh, I'm so honored that you like my book, because you should be. Ask them what the favorite part was, ask them to join you in some other way. So those three things are huge. Write a great book, put your soul into it, engage with your fans, create super fans, put your soul into them and your heart into them, and then network and turn this into this is your business, this ecosystem of people. And so be a good business person and treat everybody with authenticity and respect, and, be out there looking out for each other.
Yeah. And I think don't be just a good business person, just be a good person. Chuck Wendig gave me and my other co-host some really good advice, which is like, this industry is a ladder. but make sure that when you're climbing up, you don't step on anybody else's fingers along the way. Be kind, support each other, and help kind of, it's like that old adage of just like a rising tide lifts all boats kinds of things. So just don't go shit in somebody else's boat. That's my advice. This has all been amazing. I really, really appreciate you all offering so much, just amazing experiences, very, very helpful tips and knowledge and whatnot about career. But I just want to give you each a last chance to share some final advice for authors out there who are thinking about their career, who are thinking about self-publishing as a job and as something that they want to commit to. So Tao, I'll toss it to you.
I mean, I'm going to take the easy one, which is write the next book. When you've got, the moment you finish your book, you celebrate, enjoy yourself, start writing the next one. There's an adage that your next best sales tool is your next book, right? It doesn't always work out that way, but definitely write your next book, because as Shami says, you do need more than one donut.
Yeah. Yes. Tao took the easy one. Shami, you're up next.
Yeah. I guess I already gave my best advice, which was to treat it like a business, or us as a group. Don't just think of it as your art project. If your goal is to be a career author, I mean, if your goal is just to do this a hobby, you do whatever makes you feel good. You know what I'm saying? But if you're gonna make this career, treat it like a business. Go into that mindset that it's a business. Really know your audience, and work on your craft of writing. You should also, I guess, is like the bigger caveat. You should know that you're passionate about writing before you go into this career. Because if you're not passionate about writing, got really bad news for you. There's a lot of writing in your future, so you got to really love writing in order to be a part of this. And if you do, I think you have good times ahead, right? There's that famous quote, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Beautiful. Mike?
Ultimately, you got to trust yourself, right? You got to trust your gut. And then one thing that I think is a little different that I would offer is people get this idea that like, oh, they wrote their book and now it's time to share it with people to get feedback, and they're going to give it to people and say, rip me apart. I actually think don't do that. Give the book to like 4 people who you know are going to love it, and then ask them what they thought were like the best parts. And then you know what to keep, and it motivates you to write the book, which is how the book actually gets good, right? That's how a book gets good. And then once you've done that 2 or 3 times, then give it to people. Your book is ready for the next level of feedback. And then ask people like, okay, now hit me with it, right? But I have this little saying for success. I saw this question about what success means to me. And I'm going to apply it to books, right? So being successful with writing books is dedicating yourself to improving the book every single day, while also accepting where you're at along the way. Okay. It's both things. Always improving, always accepting where you're at. It's a fine balance, but if one of those gets off, it can really cause stagnation. So, there you have it.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Mike, the life coach, bringing us home. Thank you so much. Mike, thank you, Tao. Thank you, Shami, for joining me for this panel today, sharing your knowledge, your experience, and everything with the indie community. Donuts, so many fucking donuts in this episode. I hope you're all hungry and maybe go, support Shami's non-existent but soon to be opening donut shop. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, have fun.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, we're not done yet. I'll give you all a chance to let everyone know where they can find you online.
Oh, okay.
Shami, go for it.
I'm Shami Stovall. Shami, all 5 letters of my name. That's it. If you type my name into Google, you should probably find me pretty quick anywhere books are sold. I do have my own website. I try to be on every single social media for the reason that Michael said. Sometimes your fans are only dedicated to one social media platform, therefore you have to be on them all. So I'm on them all. I feel like if you really love progression fantasy, sci-fi. I have a LitRPG series. If you like any of those types of things, you can find my work and have a good time.
Fantastic. Tao?
Hi, I'm Tao Wong. You can find me on my personal website, mylifemytao.com, and a variety of social media stuff, though email is the easiest way to get hold of me personally. And I also have a publishing company that is Starlit Publishing, and you can buy my books directly from there, or some of them at least.
And other authors. Yeah, there's a bunch of great
Oh yeah,
LitRPG,
and all
everything,
my other
cultivation
co-authors
novels.
and who are on there as well.
Nice. I like how you introduced yourself again, Tao. After an hour and a half. I love it. Thank you, buddy. And Mike?
You can find me, just look up my name, Michael Michel. It is such a weird name, but Michel is Michel. Okay, no L-E.
I did
And
think
I
your
write the
name
Dreams
was
of Dust
Michael
and
Michael
Steel
when I
series.
first read it.
Okay, so technically it is, because it's Michael in French.
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
every
say.
other language except English. In Spanish, it's Miguel Miguel. In German, it's Michel Michel. You know, it's
Okay.
it's a weird name.
Thanks to your parents for that.
Yeah, there you go. It's same name twice, but no A in the second one.
Awesome.
But you can find my Dust and Dreams, Dreams of Dust and Steel series online, and I'm pretty much on all the social media platforms. So if you like really character driven, Game of Thrones-esque fantasy, gritty epic fantasy, I won't quite call it grimdark, with a little infusion of X-Men, then you might like my work. I originally had set out to write a book about the human spirit, but in a fantasy world. So if that sounds interesting to you, check it out.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much again. You can also find SFF Addicts at sffaddictspod. You can follow me at Adrian M. Gibson. You can check out Mushroom Blues in whichever format, whichever platform you prefer. You can also check out my co-hosts' books, MJ Kuhn and Greta Kelly. You can go buy The Queen of Days, Among Thieves, support them wherever fine books are sold. And that's it for this episode. And this marks the end of Indie Appreciation Month. Thank you to all the amazing indie authors who've joined us these past few weeks. We hope these panels have been helpful to all the, the aspiring authors out there, the authors in the making, but also folks who have been in the industry for a while. Just anyone who's on this self-publishing path with us. It means a lot for all of you to join us and share your knowledge. So thank you again. And we'll close this episode out there. For now, keep reading, keep imagining, keep writing, keep creating, keep your career going. And we'll see you next time on SFF Addicts.